like design wise, it's so fantastic and it's so great, and I absolutely love it. So I'm actually very excited for this because I think it's a great Pokemon. But honestly, like, there's been some really kind of fun stuff that like I've been seeing at this tournament, right? There's a lot of Pokemon that I think what I love about Locals, everyone feels kind of like sort of free to just sort of explore whatever they feel like bringing. Actually, even just like at regionals. However, here we go. So Allan is going to have Iron Hands, Sableye, Amoonguss, Goldengo, Volcarona, and Dragonite. Choice Band of Dragonite as well. So again, Dragonite just really one of those scary sort of Pokemon. However, it is Terra Flying, not Terra Normal like you might expect. And on Ari's side, I'm so excited about this. It is Tinkaton. We're going to come back to that one because that is the Pokemon. Roaring Moon, Sylveon, Armarouge, Tauros, Paldean, Water form as well. Meowscarada. Tinkaton is the best Pokemon in this series, and like sorry, not the series. In this generation, I freaking love this Pokemon. Just tiny little like gremlin who has a hammer, and I love her, and she's great, and it's amazing, and it's beautiful. That's it. That's all I have to say. The fact that you can't use Corviknight as a flying taxi, because like, hey, you know, you can't hit things. Like Tinkaton's like, hey, I see a Corviknight. I'm a throw. Great, love it. Actually, what's really interesting too, though, is that Allan actually has some really great Pokemon on his team. I love the fact that Volcarona is in a generation in the decks where it's healthy and thriving in a lot of ways, right? You have the opportunity for it to just kind of be a menace where before, like, a single rock slide would just kind of knock it out of the game completely. And so really there's actually some really interesting choices here. You've got sort of, you know, the Future Paradox Pokemon with the Iron Hands, but you've also got the Past Paradox with the Roaring Moon. So a good mix of Pokemon that we've actually seen multiple times, and I really appreciate how some Paradox Pokemon are kind of showing like what they are really made of here. So Sylveon and the Armarouge going to be the lead of choice here for Ari versus the Sableye and the Goldengo, right? So Sableye really having a lot of fun in the sun in terms of being able to be a prankster again. If you're looking at this and kind of just going, hey, Sableye kind of does what Whimsicott used to do. The only difference is you can't set up Tailwind. But having a prankster that is able to just kind of, you know, encore disable and do really crazy shenanigans is really fantastic and kind of funny. And then you've got the Armarouge and the Sylveon. So Sylveon, generally the evolution that you'll see the most because of the fact that it has that great special attack, has that Pixelate, has Throat Spray and Hyper Voice, right? So again, you scream, things get knocked out, and it's really great for Sylveon. Armarouge, usually seen next to an Indeedee, not quite here though, just because it's not actually a terrain setter for Ari's side, but still a Pokemon can just kind of be a threat. It's going to Terra Grass on this turn. One of those Pokemon that has more defensive Terra typing than anything else. Sableye going to take this opportunity to use that Prankster ability and go ahead and set up the light screen. Has Goldengo, goes for the Shadow Ball, is going to go into the Armarouge. Does a considerable amount of damage still though, is able to get down to at least half health. His Armarouge's Armor Cannon is going to return fire into the Goldengo. Goldengo able to hold almost 4 HP. Defense is going to get knocked down though, as well as the special defense here for Ari's Armarouge. Yawn from the Sylveon is going to make sure that the Sableye is going to go to sleep next turn. So Sableye officially on a counter here, but Goldengo still able to be on the field. It's kind of a huge thing here. It is like one of the faster Pokemon. It doesn't seem like there is. Oh, sorry, there is a quick attack that I think turns into Fairy typing because of the Pixelate. So should still be able to hit the Goldengo if necessary. And Armarouge, you know, gonna just have to take an attack if it needs to, but Goldengo has to be careful because now you have to worry about that specific move. And now you're kind of in a point where like Sableye is going to be put to sleep next turn if it's not careful. So Sableye is actually going to leave the field this turn. I'm going to have to make sure that it won't actually be put to sleep as Iron Hands takes its place. Iron Hands is the future Paradox version, of course, of Hariyama here. Sylveon is able to use that quick attack. Thanks to Pixelate, is able to turn into a Fairy type. So we'll connect with Goldengo, who usually is a Ghost type. And so normally quick attack won't connect that way. So Goldengo unable to move this turn because of it. Armarouge going for another Armor Cannon into the Iron Hands. Doesn't really do as much. You know, you kind of wanted that to be the Sableye most likely, but now you're in a spot to just switch in a Pokemon here. So sure, Goldengo went down. I was able to at least do some damage into the Armarouge, but not quite enough into it. And so now the Dragonite going to take the field. Dragonite showing, hey, original generation, still one of the best generations, able to go for a fake out, be at least able, you know, that choice band though, gonna have to be really careful because once you fake out, you're gonna lock yourself into that. You're gonna want to have to like chain. Sorry, Dragonite not having the fake out. I totally just missed that he clicked fake out with Iron Hands, but Dragonite, whatever it's gonna choose, is gonna have to lock itself in with that band. So we are gonna see the Terra typing now happening on Allan's side, so that Dragonite gonna be Terra flying now. A little bit of a change from some of the other Terra types that you might be seeing on Dragonite. Earlier you saw Geo's Dragonite, which was Terra normal to make use of that extreme speed access here, but Sylveon actually going for Protect, kind of hide behind that little shield to make sure it doesn't take any damage on this turn as Iron Hand goes for the fake out into armor. Just a lot of damage still though. Dragonite's Terra Blast not going to connect with that Sylveon because it did hide behind that Protect. However, this Armorers though is unable to, there's actually Covert Cloak is going to deny the fake out from here. So Covert Cloak secondary effect is going to, Covert Cloak effect makes sure that secondary effects don't actually happen. So things like fake out, you will not be flinched. So Armor still able to move. It is actually now at -3 for its defense and special defense, which is why that fake out did so much. Dragonite going for the Terra Blast here, an absolute fast beast here, showing that dragons don't have to worry about some fairy types. Oh, not enough to pick up the knockout. Those Armor's Armor Cannon is going to go down into that Dragonite, going to break that multi-skill. What a hefty amount of damage into that Pokemon. So now you are at -5 for that, but Armor is just going to go down on this turn finally, as it does go down to a Drain Punch from the Iron Hands. So at least Dragonite doesn't have to worry though about a super effective Fairy type move because of the fact that it did lose that Dragon typing with the Terra flying. Armor just goes down here. Perfect spot for actually still going to go for a Hyper Voice. Yep, just like right now. Hyper Voice though not enough to really get anything close to a knockout. However, it will activate that Throat Spray, so that special attack now I'm gonna get boosted here for that Sylveon. So honestly, Sylveon actually still in a pretty decent spot, right? Like Sylveon has at least access to spread moves versus both of Allan's Pokemon, which only really have access to just one sort of single target moves. As Tauros is going to come into play here for Ari, and I'm gonna be able to get Intimidate down into both Iron Hands and the Dragonite. Super important. Actually, Dragonite, my bad, it is inner focus, so it does not have that. So actually multi-scale was never really a thing. That is my bad. I'm so used to all Dragonites being multi-scale that I did not look down and look at that ability. That is on me, sorry. But you know, Dragonite is gonna be at -1. Did have was locked into Terra Blast, so gonna be a little bit careful here. Sableye back on the field, was able to set up screens before it got yawned. Sylveon actually gonna go for Protect on this turn. So Sableye actually coming in pretty nicely here, as that Tauros is actually going for an Aqua Jet. Is enough to pick up the knockout here on Iron Hands. So Iron Hands goes down as Sableye comes in relatively unscathed. So the nice thing here though for Allan is that Dragonite does at least have a chance to reset whatever move it's going to lock into, and did have a chance to reset the Intimidate that was there. The problem now is between Sylveon and Tauros and the whatever actually Ari has in the back. So this Dragonite's gonna have to put in a lot of work. So now you have the Sableye, has access to Encore, could disable something, was able to set up one of the screens early on. Dragonite actually still kind of in a rough spot here, so you kind of looking at a moment where I think Allan actually is gonna have to actually going for an extreme speed here, so gonna lock itself into Bandit extreme speed. Sylveon goes down this turn, and now Sableye actually going for an Encore, which was that Aqua Jet actually. So Aqua Jet going into that Dragonite. Dragonite is able to hold on though, and so what you can do now is you can just go for extreme speed into whatever Ari has in the back. It's actually Roaring Moon. Never mind. Roaring Moon has that booster energy into that photosynthesis, so going to activate that and gonna get an extra boost in attack. I don't know that Extreme Speed Dragonite is going to be able to actually take care of that, but disable from Sableye, Encore disable, a combination as old as time. Dragonite Extreme Speed, actually does a lot into the Roaring Moon here. Aqua Jet though, going to happen first before disable is able to happen. So the Sableye still kind of in a rough spot. I mean, hey, if the Sableye can do it, that would be great, but I think the Sableye doesn't actually have any attack moves. It literally only has Reflect, Encore, Disable, and Light Screen. So Yeah, I mean, ouch, man, acrobatics did a lot there. Yeah, Alan kind of seeing the writing on the wall here, and just giving, just clicking run. Not much that he could really do against like kind of Ari's onslaught. Like that armor rouge was just an absolute menace, right? You were able to get like 5 armor cannons basically happening zero, like -4 or 5 by the time that thing got knocked out. And so again, actually just putting on some really great pressure against Allan's side of the field. The Sableye was nice, but the yawn from Ari, that actually really helped him out a lot, right? Being able to go for the yawn and just actually the quick attack into the golden goat to be able to knock it out. Just absolutely fantastic choice there. And just keeping that Roaring Moon in the back until it was like necessary for it to come out to the field. I think the hard part here is that Allan's Dragonite is in a really rough position half the time, because locking yourself in with band is really rough, especially when you're Terra flying and like you want that extra boost, right? Because Terra flying with Terra Blast into a banded Dragonite is really nice. The problem is when you don't have the speed control, or like when you have something like Extreme Speed, which could do a lot of damage, you're kind of missing it in the scenario where you want to be able to get that damage down quick. We saw how much Extreme Speed did into that Roaring Moon. I think, like because of the banded, like maybe a normal Terra Dragonite would have been able to pick up the knockout there, but again, Terra Blast is just as good, right? It's just so strong, and there has to be, I think, a little bit of an adjustment to figure out what do you want to lock your Dragonite into. That's the problem with, or that's the downside a lot of the times with choice items, is at the end of the day, what do you want to lock yourself into, right? And if everything else gets knocked out and you're left with just that choice Pokemon, what are you going to be okay being locked into? And sometimes it has to be something like Extreme Speed, and sometimes you don't have a choice. On Ari's side, though, I think they actually did a pretty good job, right? That Armor Rouge Sylveon sort of was able to put in a lot of pressure onto Allan's side. Armor Rouge just was almost kind of just free to click Armor Cannon for days, and Sylveon was just like, you know what, at some point I'm gonna scream and things will get knocked out, but if I just yawn, things will get put to sleep. So either way, it's kind of like a win-win for like the Sylveon at that point. So really just kind of thinking about like where do you want to go with this like next step. So Tinkaton, oh yes, Tinkaton is on, yes, I'm so happy. Okay, all right, cool. Tinkaton is on the field, and this is great. I love Tinkaton. This is fantastic, and this is amazing. We already know that Roaring Moon's photosynthesis is going to boost up its attack. All I care about is this Tinkaton. This is the best. That's literally, this is amazing. Hold on. Sorry, working real fast. Alright, I'm just gonna be so happy with this Tinkaton. I clearly don't have a bias on this at all. She's great, guys. Tinkaton is great and fantastic, and I love her. But honestly, it's actually kind of a hard Pokemon to hit, right? Fairy and Steel is actually a really interesting combination of types. So it's actually not really something that you might want to ever Terra, because it's kind of crazy, right? Like, you get a hammer, sure, you can't use it twice in a row, but it's just an insane amount of damage. So Iron Hands is actually going to switch out from that for what was that Dragonite here. So Roaring actually goes for a Protect. Try to see maybe what what Alan's going to do. Tinkaton uses Thunder Wave, is going to make sure that this Goldengo is paralyzed at least. Might pay off right now. Nope. So Make It Rain is actually going to hit right now. It's actually not going to hit that Roaring Moon because of the Protect, but it's going to hit that Tinkaton. That Tinkaton takes it like a champ. Look at that. Special attack is going to drop by 2 here, though, for that Goldengo. Gonna have to be really careful about that. Tinkaton is in a really awkward spot where it's so close to getting that proc from the from that Citrus Berry. So it's actually still kind of rough, right? I actually really adore the and this isn't just because it's Tinkaton. I actually really adore the choice of it, because I think that having the Mold Breaker ability is really nice too, right? You ignore a lot of the abilities that happen, so you are able to do something like paralyze the Goldengo, because Gold is something that you could ignore now and just be like, nah, sorry, that's not happening, right? It's really kind of fantastic. I think it would be really cool is if you actually had a Golden Go next to a Tinkaton, you could Helping Hand it in some ways because Goda's Gold stops that. However, we are going to get a Terrastalize here, and this is actually going to be Ari's side of the field, so they're actually going to Terrastalize the Tinkaton. Heck yeah! Tinkaton is going to get that flying Terrastalize. So now it is a deadly Gremlin in the sky with a hammer. Love that. Tinkaton going for the Helping Hand, going to help out that Roaring Moon. That attack was high, it's going to get even higher now as Iron Hands actually goes for this fake out into the Roaring Moon, so kind of a waste there because it doesn't have the Cobra Cloak. We know that's an armor, but Goldango cannot move because it is paralyzed. The fact that Mold Breaker gets past that and is able to paralyze the Goldango and is able to make sure that, like, hey, that actually paid off right now. That is fantastic, right? That is great dividends here. The issue now is you're gonna have to try your best to capitalize on it because the fake out into the Roaring Moon really stops a lot of the momentum that you could have had with that Tinkaton. It's in a weird way, it's like its own like semi-early kind of threat, right? Roaring Moon is really kind of scary here as a Pokemon. Acrobatics is going to do, you know, twice as much damage now because of the fact that you no longer have an item. And Helping Hand makes that even better. But Golden Go should be like, hey, I don't really want to take any sort of like damage here, so I am actually going to switch out. The Dragonite is going to come in. It is inner focus on a multi-scale, so it will take regular damage for whatever's going to happen here. We're actually going to see a Terrastalize from Allan, and that Terrastalize is going to go into the Iron Hand. It is going to be a Grass Terrastalize here. Going to have at least a little bit of resistance. The Assault is also going to help out a lot with that for it. And the Helping Hand now from the Tinkaton into the Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon gonna go for the Earthquake. Doesn't affect the Tinkaton. Again, thanks to that Terrifying, Dragonite already has that Blank type in there, so we're not gonna affect that. It's just gonna hurt the Iron Hands, but Iron Hands just barely takes any damage from that at all, thanks to that Grass. And now you're in the spot where, you know, the Drain, like Roaring Moon is down, Tinkaton, you know, trying its best to just help out its friends. And honestly, the switch for the Terra typing into the Iron Hands Grass was just a great choice here from Allan, right? You kind of just see like, oh, this is what this Roaring Moon has access to, and I'm going to be really careful about that, right? Earthquake or Acrobatics. You can either try to hit everybody or you can only hit one. And so with that going down, that's actually a pretty huge deal. So now you just kind of have to like wonder, like, what are your choices here as Ari, right? So you're actually gonna bring out the Armarouge, which if it had that fake out from before, right, didn't have to worry about that because of like the whole like covert cloak, making sure that it can't flinch. Dragonite is gonna lock itself into whatever move it wants right now, just because of the fact that it did switch in, and so now is going to move, is gonna lock in for ban. Iron Hands kind of actually has pretty much free reign of the field as well. This Tinkaton is actually in a precarious position now, where you're looking at a Wild Charge from the Iron Hands, potentially knocking it out. And Armarouge might be able to hit a lot of damage. I think Armor Cannon could, you know, really do some damage here. Extreme Speed, oh, able to hold on though. Tinkaton is just like, hey, I'm gonna hold on, I'm gonna eat my berry, I'm gonna gain some health back. You can't get rid of me that easily. Gigaton Hammer though, going to be the move of choice. Does not do that much damage though into that Iron Hand, but Armarouge is going to follow that up with an Armor Cannon. Now super effective thanks to that Grass Terra. Also not enough to knock out the Iron Hands. All these Pokemon here just hanging around, holding on as best as they can. Armarouge though going to take a lot of damage from the Wild Charge, but Iron Hand's going to go down to its own move because that Wild Charge recoil damage is going to make sure that it gets knocked out on this turn. So Tinkaton though still able to hold on, actually pretty important for that Tinkaton. You're kind of just looking actually right now at Armarouge and one other Pokemon that could be another just sort of attacker. It might actually be the Sylveon in the back for Ari. I'm not just, you know, throwing things out here. But Dragonite locking itself into extreme speed, gonna have to actually just pick up a knockout right now. Both Armarouge and Tinkaton are within sort of knockout range. Really kind of just leaving it for maybe the Goldango to clean up if it needs to. The Goldango's in a rough spot just because, again, it has been paralyzed. Thanks to the Tinkaton's Thunder Wave with Mold Breaker bypassing the Goda's Gold. So, you know, the Tinkaton's just stayed on here and it's been kind of a menace. Cannot use Gigaton Hammer again, so at least you know that much, right? But Dragon Knight going for the extreme speed is able to pick up the knockout this time now on that Tinkaton, is going to make sure that it gets knocked down. It's just like, oh, well, you did your best, and you have no regrets now, hopefully, as a Tinkaton. Armor to the going for the armor cannon is going to get -2 now for its stages, as it does manage to pick up the knockout here on a Moongus. Going to be at -2 defense and special defense. So even without those, though, was definitely in range for a KO from an extreme speed. So whatever Ari has in the back now might actually be in a pretty good spot. It is going to be that Sylveon. Sylveon has to be careful, though, because of that Make It Rain. So if Tinkaton from beyond the wherever fainted Pokemon go can make sure that that paralysis sticks, it might actually be in a pretty good spot. Make It Rain will just do super effective damage into that Sylveon. It's still at its full special attack. It does have a covert cloak, though, so nothing really sort of like boosting up its attacks if it needs to. So actually the longer it holds on, the harder it's going to be for Goldengo to pick up some potential knockouts here, as extreme speed from Dragonite is going to pick up the knockout here on Armourouge. Just actually a hyper voice from Sylveon would do a lot. Yep, Sylveon gonna go first because that speed goes down. Super knockdown on Dragonite is gonna activate the throat spray here. If this Goldengo is actually able to get paralyzed like twice, this might go in Ari's favor. No, but Make It Rain is going to go through. It will break through that. A single target, Make It Rain, putting Sylveon knocked out, putting us to a game 3. And excuse me 1 second. All right, and we are going to go to a game 3. I'm really happy to see hold on. Sorry, excuse me. Work calls. So honestly, as much as I love Tinkaton, I actually don't think it's probably the best Pokemon in this matchup, having seen how it went right now, right? I think I do love the Armourouge for Ari. I think that is a good Pokemon in this, surprisingly. But there's actually just kind of a weird sort of now you're just kind of a weird spot where like the Iron Hands is actually kind of a really annoying threat, right? The Assault Vest makes it even like bulkier in a lot of ways. The Goldengo still kind of showing why it's a really good Pokemon. Dragonite Extreme Speed Choice Band is still kind of nasty no matter what, right? As long as you give Dragonite access to a priority move and high attack stats, like it's gross. Like it is a Pokemon that you don't really want to deal with at all. And I think if you're looking at Ari, and you're looking at your team, you're just kind of thinking like, what are you gonna do against something like that? Like very aggressively, right? Tinkaton was cool. The cheekiness of Mold Breaker paralysis is fantastic. I don't know if it works in this scenario, and it's definitely one of those where I think where Armourouge kind of shines a lot in this matchup against Allan's team, and it's just kind of rough, right? Because you want your Sylveon in a spot where it can just, again, click Hyper Voice, Scream, get the boost from Throat Spray, and then things like that just sort of happen. So it's kind of a rough spot because now you're just trying to figure out, how do I get rid of the heavy attackers on Allan's side? And the adjustment you're gonna have to make is actually Sylveon and Armourouge. So Sylveon, has the Throat Spray, Armourouge having the Covert Cloak. Dragonite and Goldengo is actually gonna be the lead of choice here. It's just Goldengo just able to just put a lot of pressure with that Make It Rain. It's just a really fantastic move here. Again, the Dragonite gonna have to lock itself into a banding move right now. It is terrifying, so it could negate so it could nullify the super effective damage that it would take from any sort of pixelated move from Sylveon. Still in a little bit of trouble, I think, because you really do just want to get rid of that. I think the Armourouge is sort of like the most annoying thing if you're Allan that you want to get rid of against Ari. So Allan actually going to go for the Terra right away here. Is going to go for Terra Flying. Is going to be able to at least lock itself into some sort of abandoned move. Might be that extreme speed again, but Archie Armor is going for the wide guard, showcasing like, hey, if you make it rain, it's not going to happen here. Actually, Goldingo, they'll go and say, I'm not going to fall for that. We're going to go for the Shadow Ball instead. Goes straight into the Armouge. Is able to pick up that knockout quite easily on the Armouge. Armouge had its best, just couldn't quite succeed in that moment as Dragonite's Terra Blast, boosted by both Band and by its Terra typing, is going to do heavy damage to that Sylveon. Is not quite enough to get that knockout down into it. Sylveon, though, going to scream, get that Hyper Voice down. Is going to activate its Throat Spray, but honestly, it's not going to be able to do much. It is already in the red here. Armouge getting knocked out this turn is kind of big for it, and the fact that, you know, it's one of the heavy hitters on Ari's team, and the fact that they've lost it so early on in this, essentially, like, actually basically turn one, it's kind of rough. Puts them on the back burner here. Roaring Moon is going to hit the field here. We are going to see one more time that booster energy activate, so Photosynthesis is going to boost that attack just a little bit. So still a scary Pokemon, but not as scary now that Armouge is no longer there to help protect it in the back. There's only so many things I think that you could like really hit with the Roaring Moon, right? You have access to Earthquake, but you're gonna hit your own Sylveon if you do something like that. Tailwind, which we hadn't seen, you don't actually really. I mean, it would be nice to use, but again, Dragonite has access to things like Extreme Speed if it was to switch out, and honestly, Earthquake, you know, you're just going to hit the Goldingo, and sure, you could do a lot of super effective damage to that, but again, you're going to hit your own Sylveon. Acrobatics would do double damage here, but I don't know that it would actually be close to knocking either of these Pokemon out. So kind of in a spot where Roaring Moon is a little bit rough, but actually, Sylveon going for the Protect here might actually showcase an Earthquake here. Nope, Roaring Moon's actually going to set up the Tailwind instead, so Tailwind going to make sure that the speed advantage is now on Ari's side. Actually, if Allan switches at any point to make sure that the banded Dragonite gets reset, that would be great for it. But Goldingo can do some decent damage onto the Roaring Moon, is going to get it down to about half health. Terra Blast from that Dragonite, though, going to go into that Roaring Moon. That Roaring Moon's only opportunity to do anything was to set up that Tailwind is going to go down, and this Sylveon is sitting there and just watching its partners go down one by one, and now the last of Ari's team is going to hit the field here. It is going to be the Meowscarada. So we have seen all of Ari's team all together. This Meowscarada, they're going to be in for, I think, a little bit of a rough time. It is a Focus Sash variant Meowscarada, so one of the most common sets for Meowscarada to have. But honestly, against like the sheer power that is a Goldingo and a Dragonite, I don't know that there's much that Ari can do, right? Sure, you can target down the Dragonite and try to get rid of like maybe what you consider as the biggest threat, because the speed is technically on your side. But if Dragonite switches out and switches back in, you can just extreme speed everything, and that won't matter because you'll be in priority for that. So now Amoonguss is going to switch into that spot for that Dragonite, allowing Dragonite to reset for later on. Goldingo is going to protect this turn, so we're going to burn at least one turn of Tailwind here, as Meowscarada actually goes for the knockoff into the protected Goldingo spot. So Goldingo is just going to stand there and just not have to worry about it. Sylveon going for the Hyper Voice. Did already get boosted by the Throat Spray that it had before. So Amoonguss, though, that is, you can scream in its ear all day and it won't listen at all. It doesn't have to worry about that in any way, shape, or form. So still just kind of Ari on the back burner here, just kind of on the back foot, trying to at least, you know, get some damage out here. Sure, Allan, like, was not really forced to have more of a pivotal switch, right? Making sure that Dragonite doesn't take any damage that it really has to, because you could just save it for later on. Just sometimes it's better to guarantee a victory than it is to leave it up to chance. But Sylveon here going for Protect, going to make sure that it can't get hit by Make It Rain. Meowscarada going for another knockoff here, is at least able to pick up the knockout here on that Goldingo, so Goldingo not able to Make It Rain another turn here. Now, the Covert Cloak, which we already know because, one, it's open TPs, but Pollen Puff, you're going to break the Sash, actually going to activate it here as Meowscarada is now going to be at 1 HP thanks to that that Focus Sash. But Dragonite and Iron Hands are still in the back, are still in the spot where they're primed to just be able to take things out. Dragonite's just like, yeah, okay, sure, I'm back. All you have to do is click Extreme Speed. Yeah. That's really all you have to do, right? Pollen Puff knocks out the Meowscarada. It's at 1 HP. Extreme Speed knocks out the Sylveon. That's really just kind of it at this point. I think if you're Ari, you just kind of see the writing on the wall. There's not much that you can really do at this point. And it's a little rough, right? When you're up against such an aggressive lead like that, where hey, this is what's gonna happen. However, Sylveon's not out of it yet, I guess. It is going to go for the Terra typing here, because why not? Terra Fairy Sylveon is going to be hit. Oh my gosh, that would have been absolutely terrifying. Terra Fairy after Throat Spray one. Dragonite going for extreme speed is going to be able to knock out the Terra Fairy Sylveon here. Sylveon got all dolled up just to get knocked out here. Did its best though, was able to at least, you know, put some pressure here with Hyper Voice. Meowscarada goes for the knockoff here. Not quite enough to actually even knock out the Dragonite, as Pollen Puff is going to connect with the Meowscarada, knocking it out from its 1 HP, giving game 2 and the set to to Allan. However, both of them were X1, I want to say, so there's still technically a chance for them to still make it to X2. There are going to be some X2s that make it to cut. It is 6 rounds, so there's still a chance, honestly. But that was actually a fantastic sort of matchup. I really, really appreciated the fact that we got to see the Tinkaton, and I'm super happy about that. I think they were one of the last ones we were waiting for, so I'm not going to stay here long because you'll see me again for round 6.